Ladies and gentlemen, hello, this is DBoe over at Lansego, and today is day 2 of Core Set 2020 spoilers. Let's just go ahead and jump right in. We've got a lot to cover today. Now, ley lines are back, and today we have a brand new one to take a look at. Ley Line of Combustion, 2 red. It's an enchantment, and it's got that same ability. If it's in your opening hand, you can put it on the battlefield. And it has this really unique effect. It says whenever you and or at least one permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, Ley Line of Combustion deals 2 damage to that player. Really powerful stuff. I definitely can see this in the sideboard of a mono red list, especially one that's wanting to be very aggro like we've had before. This can go in the sideboard of any list that needs some protection against those targeted removable spells. This is going to be a great way to push your damage over the top. Goblin Ringleader, 3 in a red for a 2/2 goblin. It's got haste, and it says whenever Goblin Ringleader enters the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all goblin cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This card is pretty dang amazing, I've got to tell you. Not only does it have haste, which is pretty great, but especially in Commander, you can definitely utilize that, putting the top 4, if they're all goblins, into your hand. There are cards that allow you to put goblins on top of your library. This would be a great way for you then to be able to draw 4 cards for 4 mana. So it seems really good. Plus it has that 2/2 body. In Standard, it'll maybe see some play. I don't think it'll see a ton of play unless we have some other shenanigans to put goblins on top of our library. But you know, it's a good limited card at least. Planar Cleansing, 3 white. Destroy all non-land permanents. Finally, we get something like this back. Another great way for us to be able to deal with those pesky planeswalkers, those pesky enchantments, those pesky artifacts. Everything that we could possibly need to destroy is destroyed. Sure, it hits our stuff too, but I think that's okay. If we really need to cast a spell, I think we're willing to give up whatever we need to give up. Veil of Summer, a brand new card here. For a single green, you get an instant. Draw a card if an opponent has cast a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered this turn. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and from black until the end of turn. So, this is technically a counter spell in green against blue. So, you can play your thing. They go to then counter your spell, and you go Veil of Summer in response, and it basically fizzles their counterspell because your spells can't be countered. This card is really great. It also fizzles any black kill spell. It gives you and your permanent hexproof from blue and black. So this color hate stuff is really interesting. Like Jeremy said the other day, you know, it's really hard to evaluate this stuff. However, I think Veil of Summer is definitely going to see some play, at the very least in sideboards against the control matchups. Ley Line of Avoid, here's another needed reprint. 2 black enchantment. Again, if it's in your opening hand, it can go on the battlefield. And then if a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. We needed stuff like this. This is the type of hate that we really need. Command the Dread Horde is a really hard deck to beat. This is a great way to just shut it out. In fact, the Arc-like Phoenix deck's a great way to just annihilate those types of decks. Blight Beetle, 1 black for a 1/1 insect. What's really interesting about this card, it's not the fact that creatures your opponents control can't have +1/+1 counters put on them, which is pretty great. It's actually that it has protection from green. Protection is back, people. We actually have protection. So this is really interesting. So for those who don't know, protection is an old mechanic that says that this creature can't be blocked, targeted, dealt damage, enchanted, or equipped by anything green. So you can't do anything green to it, and your opponents can't do anything green to it. It's also a free blocker against any creature that has green in its mana cost. It's a great card, plus that hate ability is pretty dang good, I'm not gonna lie. We have a new Hydra. It's X green, for a 0/1. It enters with X +1/+1 counters. It has trample, and then it has another ability. It says whenever it enters the battlefield, choose one of the following. Either double the number of +1/+1 counters on it, or it may fight target creature you don't control. This seems really good, especially in limited. Being able to get either a huge beater or something that can kill an opponent's creature seems really decent. Reckless Airstrike. This card is actually really good, in my opinion. Choose one. It's a sorcery. A single red. Reckless Airstrike deals 3 damage to target creature with flying or destroy target artifact. Very flexible card. Sideboard playable, especially in something like mono red. I definitely like this card a lot. I think it's going to see play. And yeah, if you happen to find it also in your limited pools, I definitely would pull it. It's removal. We also got another cool red goblin here. Ember Hauler for 2 red, 2/2. Another goblin. And then you can pay 1 and sacrifice it, and it deals 2 damage to any target. I think that this could actually fit into a Mardu aristocrat style list, something that wants to be sacrificing things. It has the sacrifice outlet on it, plus it deals 2 damage to any target. So imagine this, turn 2 you play this, turn 3 you play Judith, and then you can sacrifice it, and now you're dealing 3 damage to the opponent, or to a planeswalker, or to a creature. I think Ember Hauler is definitely going to be in a Judith the Scourge Diva list. Angelic Cleric, white for a 1/4. Already a great body for the cost. This is definitely going to see play in mono white lists and maybe in some others. Let's listen to this ability. It's really great. Whenever an angel enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life. Okay, seems great. Whenever an angel you control dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. That also seems amazing. So basically we have protection from board wipes if we have angels out, and if we happen to play this and we're running like the Fountain of Renewal and Dawn of Hope combo, we can then also play this and then Resplendent Angel, gain 5 life in a turn, get a 4/4 angel, gain another 4 life. I think that seems pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. I definitely can see some great powerful uses with this card. Starkfield Mystic, 1 and a white for a 2/2. Enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Starkfield Mystic. So Herald of the Pantheon didn't really see a whole lot of play. I played him, but I don't think a lot of other people played him. However, this has a really interesting place in the meta at the moment, and people are kind of out overlooking it. It fits really well with the sagas. The sagas come down cheaper, especially something like History of Benalia, right? But this can come down cheaper, and then when you sacrifice them, when they get their 3rd forward counter on it, then you get to pump your Starkfield Mystic. So if you're running this with something like a proliferate style list, where you're also proliferating the counters faster on your sagas, you can also be proliferating the +1/+1 counters on your Starkfield Mystic. I definitely think there's something there. This could be a really fun list, and I'm excited to try to build around it. Rule of Law, 2 and a white. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. This card is awesome. So it's going to be really good. It's an enchantment. It's going to be really good in a white prison style list, and we have a lot of cards for that right now. I am down for this card. If anything, it's at least going to be a very good spell against like an Arc like Phoenix style list. You can put it in your sideboard. You can bring it out when your opponent's trying to storm off a little bit. This card just really shuts down people. And if you get it down against like Blue-Red Storm, they have no way to answer this other than like a mass bounce spell, which they likely aren't going to be running because they're mostly going to be running cantrips. This is a really good card. But speaking of mass bounce, Flood of Tears, 4 blue, return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. That includes you. Keep that in mind. However, if you return 4 or more non-token permanents you control this way, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So you get to kind of break the symmetry a little bit. And as a note, Omniscience still is in the format. So maybe you ramp up into this, you cast your Flood of Tears, you then can put your Omniscience onto the battlefield, and then you just recast everything that you just picked up. This card is really good. I can't say anything more about it. The fact that you're able to break the symmetry by putting something big onto the battlefield after you picked everything up and you force your opponent to pick everything up, it stabilizes you after you cast a spell. It's a good one. If you find it in limited, it's gonna be a bomb. We also have a new wand. I'm not exactly sure what the name of this one is, sorry folks, but it's 3 colorless, and you have the ability of paying 3 colorless and tapping it, and it can deal 1 damage to any target. And then whenever this wand is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, it deals 5 damage to any target. In standard, maybe there's some sort of like makeshift munition style list that you can run, or maybe you run this with something like Bantu, where you can get this out plus a bunch of other ones, and you cast Bantu, sacrifice them all, draw a bunch of cards, deal 15 damage to your opponent. I definitely could see something right there. Loaming Shaman, 2 and a green for a 3/2. When Loaming Shaman enters the battlefield, target player shuffles any number of target cards from their graveyard into their library. This is pretty good for you. Obviously, you wouldn't want to necessarily target your opponent for this because they can just choose nothing. However, if you choose yourself, maybe there's some choice spell that your opponent was able to kill and you're able to put it back in your library to find it again. I definitely think this is okay, especially if you're going to be running it in like a mill strategy where you're self-milling yourself, and you can be able to put your one-ofs or something like that back into your library. I think this is great. Maybe this could be your only 4-of creature inside of a Guardian Project list, where you can put those creatures that died back into your library to continue drawing more cards. I think that could, maybe that's where that's supposed to go. Who knows? Golos Tireless Pilgrim, 5 colorless for a 3/5 legendary artifact creature, Scout. And it has a very interesting ability. It's very similar to Solemn Simulacrum. And it says whenever it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a land card and put that card onto the battlefield tab and shuffle your library. And you can pay 2 in Wooburg to exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn without paying their mana costs. So if you just happen to be able to create infinite mana, or be able to activate this twice in a turn, then you can definitely be able to get a ton of value out of this guy. Being able to cast upwards of like six spells in a turn for free off this seems really good. In Commander, it's really interesting that since you're tutoring for a land every time it enters the battlefield, your Commander tax is a little bit less, technically, every turn. So that seems pretty good as well. I definitely think this is going to see some standard play. I don't think it's going to see a lot, but it's definitely going to see a lot of Commander play. Kalia, Zenith Seeker, red, white, black for a 3/3 legendary creature, human cleric, flying and vigilance. And whenever Kalia enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal an angel card, a demon card, and or a dragon card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is really unique. Being able to cast this and then be able to put upwards of 3 cards in your hand from your top 6 seems really good. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that, if you're going to really be able to build like a tribal synergy or anything like that around this. This is a hard card to evaluate. It really is. I think you'll be able to find something like you have Spawn of Mayhem, you have any number of those dragons that are floating around right now. There's a ton of demons, there's a ton of angels. I think that you could stick things together and just have this cool Mardu angels, dragons, and demons aggro list, and then this could just be your card advantage engine. And if you flicker it, that can be a good way for you to be able to just churn through your deck, finding your big threats. I'm down for it. I think it's kind of cool. Loyal Pegasus, a single white for a 2/1. Seems great. Also has flying. Seems really good. It can't attack or block alone. Okay, but hey, it's a 2/1 flyer for 1. What more could you ask for? Overgrowth Elemental, 2 and a green for a 3/2. Whenever Overgrowth Elemental enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on another target elemental you control, and whenever another creature you control dies, you gain 1 life, and if that creature was an elemental, put a +1/+1 counter on Overgrowth Elemental. Okay, we're starting to see a little bit more of this elemental strategy going on here. I definitely think that this may see a 1 or 2 of in an elemental list. Who knows if it becomes really good from more of these elemental spells. This could be a 4 of in a standard elemental list. It grows your other elementals. It grows itself when your other elementals die. I think that we could definitely see some good elemental list coming from it. Growth Cycle, 1 in a green, instant. I love these types of cards. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. It gets an additional +2/+2 until end of turn for each card named Growth Cycle in your graveyard. I love spells like this. I wish there was more of them. There's only a very limited amount of them in that were ever printed in Magic. I have a pauper list built around a deck just like this. It's a lot of fun. This can be extremely powerful. You'll be able to get, let's say you have 3 in your graveyard and you cast this final one. A single payment of 1 in a green, you get +7/+7. That is insane. This is a really good card if built around it correctly. Field of the Dead. It's a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap and add a colorless mana. Whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Okay, so we're starting to see a little bit more of this lands matter stuff. We do happen to have a perfect card in standard right now to kind of abuse this a little bit. It's called Scape Shift. So you go ahead and Scape Shift away a bunch of your lands. You'll be able to get out your Field of the Dead plus 6 other lands that have different names, and then all of a sudden, since they all came in at the same time, you get 7 2/2 zombies. That seems really powerful. And then if you're running something like Teferi, you can do it at the end of your opponent's turn. Or if you're running the new Samut, maybe they all get haste and you swing in for 14. And if you're doing any other damage with any other type of a spell, then you're out ahead here. This seems like a really fun combo card. I'm not sure how competitive it's going to be since you have to run so many lands with different names, but it could be a lot of fun. Barkhide Troll, green for a 2/2, and it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. So you already get a 3/3 for 2. Seems really good. And you can pay 1 and remove a +1/+1 counter from the troll, and it gains hexproof until end of turn. So definitely a good limited bomb. It's definitely a good standard playable if you're in mono green beats. They're trying to kill this so that way they don't take any more damage. It's a good way for you to just be able to keep putting a counter on it over and over again with some of our shenanigans to be able to keep giving it hexproof. I think it's pretty good. I like it. Hanged Executioner, 2 and a white for a 1/1 flying spirit. And it's when it enters the battlefield, you get another 1/1 white spirit token with flying, and then you can also pay 3 and a white and exile it to exile target creature. Alright, spirits are starting to see a lot more play here, and this is going to be a very needed piece in a list like that. Being able to have removal on a creature is going to be very important, and I can definitely see this making an impact. Another ley line here, Ley Line of Anticipation, my favorite one out of the whole bunch. 2 blue. If it's in your opening hand, you can put it on the battlefield, and you may cast spells as though they had flash. Instant speed, everything is ridiculous. And Ley Line of Anticipation was definitely one that was starting to get up there in price, and I'm glad we finally get a reprint of it. It's going to see a lot of play in standard. This is going to be probably one of the chase rares. People just love this type of effect, and being able to basically play in any list is really tempting to try, especially when we're starting to see the London Mulligan when Core Set 2020 comes out. You can draw 7 until you finally find your ley lines, and then discard your other stuff and put this on the battlefield. Seems really powerful. Pulse of Murasa, another needed reprint. 2 and a green, instant. Return target creature or land card from your graveyard to its owner's hand. You gain 6 life. With mono red becoming even more powerful with this new set, that 6 life is going to be very important. And plus, being able to get back a creature or a land card from your graveyard if you're self-milling, or perhaps they are able to kill it, or you've been sacrificing your stuff. It's going to be a good way for you to stabilize in the late game. Dungeon Geists, 2 blue for a 3/3 flying spirit. When Dungeon Geists enter the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap until its controller's untap step for as long as you control Dungeon Geists. Very good spell. This is again going to fit in that standard spirits list if we happen to see it. There's other spirits that from previous sets that could fit in that list as well. I definitely think that this is going to see play in that list if spirits can take off. Unchained Berserker, 1 in a red for a 1/1 protection from white. Again, more protection here. And it gets +2/+0 for as long as it's attacking. I think this is going to be a decent sideboard card against white for mono red. And in fact, you may be able to even play this in something like Jeskai Control or something like that, especially if you're going to be going up against a white prison list that's looking to exile your stuff with enchantments and things like that. Unchained Berserker is going to be able to get around all of that, plus just continually hit for a ton of damage. And even creatures that just share white in their mana cost can't block this thing. So it's going to just, and he's going to be able to free block them as well. So there's a lot to love about this card. Again, I think these color specific protection spells are going to be relegated mainly to sideboard, but who knows, maybe there's going to be an aggressive list that we're going to be wanting to run some of these main. Legion's End, 1 in a black sorcery. Exile target creature an opponent controls with converted mana cost 2 or less, and all other creatures that player controls with the same name as that creature. And then that player reveals their hand and exiles all cards with the same name from their hand and graveyard. So this is a 1 in a black, exile all tokens. Seems really good with the same name. This also just completely shuts down the persistent petitioners list. I mean, if that was ever a thing. I mean, okay, this is fine. I mean, it may be a sideboard playable. It's probably going to see more limited play than anything. I don't know if this is going to really see much play in standard at all, to be honest. And finally, we get our last card for the day, Repeated Reverberation, 2 red for an instant. This card is really interesting. Whenever you next cast an instant spell, cast a sorcery spell, or activate a loyalty ability this turn, copy that spell or ability twice. You may choose new targets for the copies. So for 4 mana, you could cast this and then play a Lightning Strike and deal 9 damage. That seems pretty good. For 4 mana, you could cast this and then take up your new Mythic Chandra, and now all of a sudden your opponent's taking a bolt every single turn. That seems really, really good. There's a lot to like about this card. I don't think it's going to see a full play set in anything. However, a strong 1 or 2 of, definitely, and it could fit in so many different lists, especially if you're going to be running a lot of planeswalkers, especially if you're going to be running a lot of instants and sorceries. I think this card definitely could see some play. I mean, heck, casting this and then taking up your big Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, you draw 3 cards, and then you untap 6 lands. I mean, talk about game breaking, Jesus! This card's pretty powerful. Well, folks, that's all we had for today for day 2 of Core Set 2020 Spoilers. Join us tomorrow for day 3, and we look forward to seeing you then. Until then, follow us on our website, lancego.com, and then over on our socials. Twitter is at lancego1, Facebook is lancego, and you can also follow us on our Facebook group, The Sideboard. Always looking for some interesting conversations. Again, my name is DBoe, and we can't do this without you.